Hey folks, my name is Rabbi Yitz Wyne of Young Israel Aish of Las Vegas, and I want to wish you a fantastic Passover. I'll just share with you a quick thought for the Corona world and more, all right? So when we talk about Passover, we refer to the holiday as Pesach. And the Haggadah explains that when we say Pesach, it reminds us that God passed over the houses of the Jews as he smote the Egyptians before redeeming us from Egypt. When God talks about this holiday in the Torah, it refers to the holiday by the name of Chag HaMatzos, the festival of matzos. Why? Because the Jewish people did not allow their bread to rise, but rather when they were about to skedaddle out of Egypt, they hurried up very, very quickly. That was a very great sign of our faith that the Almighty would take care of us as we would venture into the desert. So in essence, when we talk about Passover, we say Pesach, reminding us about all the good things God did for us. When God refers to the holiday, he says Festival of Matzos to recall all the things that we, so to speak, do for God, living with a sense of trust and faith. That, my friends, is the sign of a very healthy relationship. When you have a healthy relationship, it contains the dynamic where I am appreciative, I recognize and am appreciative of everything you are doing for me, and you recognize and are appreciative of everything that I'm doing for you. You get it? I talk about what you do for me. You talk about what I do for you. Passover leads us to that healthy relationship between ourselves and our friends and our family and ourselves and God. And that is why that when you go through the Passover Haggadah tonight, hopefully you will read the section that's called Dayenu, Dayenu, which keeps saying, God, you've done so much for us. And if you only stopped there, Dayenu, it would have been enough. So we're not focused on, hey, God, what'd you do for me lately? And we're not saying, hey, God, thanks a lot, but, let's give it a little more love. We're not saying that. We are just appreciative of what the Almighty does for us in every little section. And so that relationship applies, that dynamic should appear in our personal relationships and also in our relationship with the Almighty. Today is a very difficult time. A lot of people are struggling financially, they're struggling with their health. And I would say even more importantly than both of those is people are struggling emotionally. They're struggling with a sense of what's going to be in the future. How are we going to live in a post-corona world? There's a lot of people are not with their families or their friends in this Passover holiday, and there's a sense of loneliness and isolation. So remember, Passover is a time of focusing on great redemption. We started off as idolaters, and we ended up having a very healthy relationship with one God. We started off in slavery, and the Almighty came very, very quickly and redeemed us. And sure enough, as you're sitting around your Passover table tonight and tomorrow, I want to encourage you to share the message of being positive and being hopeful, that in as much as right now we are going through uniquely challenging times, also we should remember that the Almighty will bring a unique redemption, a redemption that is far greater than the difficulty we are going through now. The days that we live in are reminiscent of the very first Passover. The very first Passover, the Jews were in quarantine. They were by themselves. They were stuck in their homes, unable to leave. And yes, there are many Jews, and especially in Israel, that's the law tonight. Everyone is literally under house arrest. And we have to remember that in the same way that in the first Passover, the Jews did not go to work on Shabbat or holidays. Well, more Jews this year will not go to work on Shabbat and the holidays than probably for the last 3,300 years. So keeping those parallels in mind, we should be ready to venture out with great faith that the Almighty will bring a redemption and blessing to each and every one of us and our families. So with that thought, please share that with your families. And again, I'm Rabbi Yitz Wyne, and from my family to yours, wishing you a fantastic, happy, optimistic, and joyful Passover that should lead us to the ultimate redemption as we recite the last words of the Haggadah, L'shana haba b'Yerushalayim, next year in Jerusalem, with joyousness and happiness for all of the Jews and the entire world.